Welcome to Election Watch 2015. I'm your host, Teresa Wippel. In the studio is Van AuBuchon, who is running for Lynnwood City Council Position 7. Mr. AuBuchon, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Teresa. Nice to be with you.
Could you tell us a little bit about your background and why you're running for re-election?
Well, my background is I'm a longtime resident of the city of Lynnwood, raising 3 boys, and I was elected to the council 4 years ago. This is the end of my first term, and during that time I've been able to get some of the things done that I started out to do. Primarily, the main thing that I'm very proud of in my first four years is the fact that I did exactly what I said I was going to do, and it is I did not ever vote to raise your taxes, and I won't.
Okay.
And that's something that I look forward to continuing to do, but still at the same time maintaining the proper services that are necessary and the level of service and the level of spending to do those services properly.
Okay. And one of those services I think that a lot of people talk about in Lynnwood these days is the fire department.
Exactly.
And you know, something that the city has been talking about is possible regional fire consolidation. What are the factors that would lead you to possibly support a merger between the city and Snohomish County Fire District 1, which is something that's been discussed, and what things maybe would factor into play if you wouldn't support such an idea?
I think the answer to that question actually is 3 parts. I have to ask myself, in order to support it, I would have to ask myself, 1, would the level of service to the citizens of Lynnwood be as good or better? 2, would there be any cost savings involved in doing that? And 3, would it be a better opportunity for our firefighters in terms of additional training and safety to them and their capability? If you answer no to any one of those questions, I'm out.
Okay. And of course, one of the things that has come up is that, you know, Lynnwood is growing, and in particular getting some taller buildings, which often require more fire service, and that requires more resources. So what kinds of things would you be looking at in terms of being able to make sure that the existing fire service is capable of meeting those needs?
Well, before any developer would consider Lynnwood for a quote-unquote high-rise building, something more than 7 stories that we have now, before the developer could even begin to do that, we would have to have in place a plan to provide the necessary fire service. Otherwise, they're not going to build that building. And part of the plan is the planning and permitting process. And in the planning and permitting process, there are typically opportunities for the city to get funds from the builder in order to develop programs to support the project that the developer is doing.
Okay. Another issue that has come up in terms of requiring some additional resources or some solutions is road repairs in the city of Lynnwood. And the city council decided recently against a ballot measure on transportation that would have included raising sales taxes and reducing vehicle tab fees. Would you in the future support a transportation ballot measure to try to get some income to be able to address road repairs that have been put off in recent years?
Yes. The TBD, which is basically the Transportation Benefit District Board, which is actually the city council.
Right, you fill both roles.
Right. We just change our hats.
Yeah.
And the TBD has failed to fund roads. Period. You are correct. We decided not to do another ballot measure this year because we did one last year and it failed. Mm-hmm. The citizens are tired of getting their taxes raised, period. And any kind of a tax increase without some sort of an idea of where those monies are going to go and how they're going to benefit the taxpayer directly, I believe is folly. And it's an exercise in futility. I mean, if you keep doing the same thing over and over again and you keep failing, what is that? You know, so it's time to stop the insanity. It's time to address the real problem. And the real problem is we have not spent the money we should have spent on roads, especially during the recession, because we didn't have the money. But let's keep in mind one thing, that when we came out of the recession in 11 and 12, or 12 rather, when we came out of the recession, Lynnwood was in the black. Not all the cities in the state of Washington were. In fact, there are cities that are no longer around.
Right.
So, getting back to the roads issue, I believe that the way to address it is we've been told we need $12 million to catch up, just to catch up. And then we need at least $4 million a year to maintain. So the program I would bring forth would be a ballot measure in the form of a levy lid lift, which over time would in fact raise taxes. But keep in mind, it's not me raising the taxes, it's the taxpayer voting whether or not they want money spent on the roads and they want additional taxes put on their property. That's up to the taxpayer. And then after that, I would go back to the administration and require them that for every dollar that they bring in terms of revenue, the first nickel goes to roads. And until that gets caught up, until we get our road system caught up, that will remain in force. So that would give us, based on our current revenue streams, that would give us an opportunity to catch that up in addition to what we are already doing.
Okay. And some people have said that because Lynnwood has so much traffic that is not from local residents during the day, that perhaps looking at other options, which maybe the idea of doing the vehicle tab fees is to spread the cost out a little bit more so it would reach people who are actually coming into the area as opposed to living, just property taxes. Is there any advantage to that, do you think?
Well, I believe that the car tab tax, we can only levy that tax on our residents.
Okay.
That doesn't, we can't levy that on everybody that comes into the city.
Okay.
I don't want to get to the Bell City model, if you remember that thing in California.
Yeah.
But the issue here is too, we have a lot of traffic in the city that is quite harmful to our roads that we have no way of taxing for.
Right. Or maybe the sales tax would address that then.
Well, sales tax might be and one of those additional things we could look at. But again, we've tried that and failed.
Right.
So that insanity can't continue. We have to try something new.
Right.
We have to take a different tact at it. We have to look at the big picture and not just try to Band-Aid the issue right now.
Okay, very good. Another issue that has come up before the council is, whether marijuana businesses should be allowed in the city, and the council had voted to not allow that at this point. But do you think that it's, down the road that the city should take another look? And if so, what factors should the city review in terms of looking at that current ban and whether it should be lifted?
The sale of marijuana within the city limits, not the use, but the sale of marijuana within the city limits is what you're talking about.
Yes.
And I believe that we've done that. We voted against the sale because of the way that the the state alcohol board. Keep in mind that was a very successful operation. Still, I won't get into that. The way that they broke up the taxation and profits, or excuse me, the revenue from the taxation of marijuana sales, it's pennies to the city. But if we have the operations in our city, then we have to take care of all of the issues that come along with that, and specifically the policing of it. So we bear the brunt of the largest value dollar spent to support it, but we don't get the taxation back from the state as their portion.
Right.
If that was to change, should we take another look at it? Absolutely.
Okay. One of the things that has been brought up is that, Lynnwood has been very reliant on sales tax. That just, it's been a fact. And are there any other possible revenue sources that you could see that might help to balance that out a little bit?
Alternative revenues has been a major concern of mine since I came to office. In the first month that I was in office, at our annual retreat, we had a discussion about alternative forms of revenue. Possibly the city becoming a provider of services whereby we could develop a positive revenue stream. One of the things that we're currently doing, and we already talked about the fire department, our city shop has a program right now to maintain the vehicles for Fire District 1, and we charge them for that. I don't think we haven't charged them on a cost-plus basis. We've charged them on a cost basis, and hopefully it won't cost us any money, but possibly in the future we could be doing that kinds of things for maybe neighboring cities where we have a positive revenue stream. Another area, and it's something I'm very proud of, the fact that when I came to the city in 2012 and took office, the city was a city of 400 employees and $50 million a year budget. We had no IT department. Well, I worked in conjunction with the mayor and got the funds necessary to bring about a study that was finally done and proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that we needed a complete IT separate department. That IT department, given the capabilities that it has and could have, we then could be an IT provider to some of our neighboring jurisdictions who have difficulty in hiring or in maintaining their systems because they don't have a large enough operation to support a full IT department themselves. Something like that could also bring positive revenue into the city. And then after that, there's these partnering opportunities. We have a tremendous opportunity with both our rec center and our golf course. And maybe there's some partnering opportunities there for sponsorship, utilizing those two facilities. Because in both cases, they have there's excess time on the golf course that could be utilized by a provider that would take up and generate more revenue from that operation. Because we now have that at least revenue positive. Not a great deal, but at least it's not a draw on the city.
The golf course, you mean?
The golf course.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that because that was an issue that came up during the last campaign, and it's a good thing to know that it's actually in the black now.
Yes, and we turned that over to a management company, and it's been a tremendous success in terms of the fact that there's no general fund monies going directly to support the day-to-day operation. There are some loans and outstanding things, I understand that, but we're working on those. The rec center has been a huge success from day one. I supported that. I supported the remodel of it. And it has proven to be a tremendous asset. And it has excess capabilities that we could farm out or utilize as for revenue streams. So there are other partnerships that we need to look at, and we are. And we need to continue to do those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the rec center, my gosh, the pool has gotten so much positive publicity. Lynnwood has really capitalized on that. Yeah. All right, well, what about, of course, Lynnwood has become an increasingly diverse city with lots of people coming from different countries and lots of different ethnic folks in town now. Do you think that the city is doing all it can to reach out to all the different groups that are in Lynnwood now? And are there ways to be able to maybe get folks more involved in government, even if they maybe aren't native English speakers? You have any ideas about that?
I wish I knew the answer to that question. I really do. We can't get the English speakers to vote. So, I mean,
Yeah, voter turnout is a problem for a lot
Yeah.
of cities. It's not just Lynnwood.
yeah. And I don't know what it's going to take. And we, at one time, we had a neighborhoods and diversity department within the city that was trying to develop some neighborhood pride programs. But it just in general, getting people to pay attention to something that's going on in the city is very, very difficult. And I don't know the answer to that question. I mean, we have council meetings where there's nobody but us chickens there, more times than not. And we don't hear a lot from the people until there's a problem, until there's a major problem. And then, of course, everybody's on board. But no, just in general, getting people more involved, I think is going to take, it's going to take us doing a better job of communication.
Yeah.
And whether it's through organizations like yourself and your Lynnwood Today thing, or whether it's through the social media, which we're starting to use, or whether it's getting more involved with some other form of direct communication, internet radio. I understand that's becoming popular in some areas for small towns. There are other technologies out there as well that I think we could utilize.
Okay. Is there anything that I have not asked you about, an issue that you're passionate about that you'd like to talk about?
Well, I think that the main issue right now, of course, is the fire department. It's a situation, the fire department is in a situation right now where there are opportunities for the city, if we were to amalgamate with the fire district, that would take some of the burden, some of the pressures off of our general fund and allow free up some funds, which we might be able to use for roads or something else. I get that. But I have to tell you this. When it comes to the fire department, I've been outdoor billing now for 6 weeks, almost 7 weeks, since the primary. And the one thing that resonates with voters out there when I talk to them is our fire department. Everybody has a story about our fire department. My mother was visiting last summer and she had a stroke, and the fire department came and they helped her, and they were so great and so professional. They were here fast. My son fell and cut his lip, and I took him up to the fire department and they helped him, and we got him squared away. They were so professional, they helped him right away. We were able to help. We had an issue with an auto accident over by the mall, and the fire department was right there and helped us out. Everybody that I've talked to, I don't think there's a person in the city of Lynnwood that hasn't had a direct connection to our direct communication or service from our fire department, and it's always positive. It's a point of pride, and has been since I believe 1977 when we first started the fire department. These people, the voters out there, do not want to give up their fire department. It's a very, very important thing to them, and it's a very important thing to me, and it's a very important thing to me. And one of the reasons that I'm running for re-election is I want to see to it that fire department is properly funded. The current administration and some on a current council voted last year not to properly fund the fire department and the police department. That cannot continue. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, now is the opportunity for you to directly address the voters, and I'll give you a chance to do that and talk about why they should vote for you. So it's your turn.
Thank you. As I've just spoken about the fire department, I think you know my stand on that. I full well intend to continue to work and do everything I possibly can to see to it that we have the proper funding for the fire department as well as the police department. And then thirdly, roads. I think that those are the three things that you, as a voter, are interested in. At least that's what you've told me when I've knocked on your door. Some of the things that I've already talked about that I was able to do thus far in my first term, things like establish an IT department. I worked on such things as you know about the Costco development, and we worked on going back to when I was on the Planning Commission before. I've worked on things like the Highway 99 redevelopment, as well as the Lynnwood Crossing development, which I think are all, the Lynnwood Crossing development, very nice development. All of these things are great, but again, I'm going to circle back around to those three things of fire, which basically is EMS, police, and roads. We can have the greatest fire department in the world, the greatest police department in the world, but if they can't drive their car down the street to get to you, it doesn't do you any good. And we've got to do something about the roads. So that's going to be my emphasis in the next 4 years. And with that, I would appreciate your vote on November the 3rd. Thank you.
Van AuBuchon, thank you so much for coming in today, and I wish you the best of luck in your campaign.
Thank you.